I think the question that all of us have to ask is, how do we, like Peter Drucker, overcome our own intellectual inertia? I also think that age never stopped his curiosity and his willingness to experiment with new ideas, and that, I think, is quite important. So what I try to do to start with is to just look at the sheer volume of what he did. And as you can see, just the books, not the articles, you can't fit into any slide. So I have 2 slides. We all have some hope, because most interesting work of Peter Drucker, after the seminal work in 54, came when he was 70 plus. So for those of us who are slowly approaching that age, there is hope. What is our bias? Is our bias action? Is our bias changing society as we see it? Is it our bias to shape the world? Or is it our bias to document what has been? That, I think, is a fundamental challenge. What are the tasks of leaders? And command and control to volunteerism as an approach. How do you influence people who are volunteers, knowledge workers, not people who will be pushed around because you have power? And I think he had a lot of suspicion about charismatic leaders, whether it's Mao or Hitler or Stalin. So they call them misleaders. Charisma is good, but it can also be misused. And I love this quote. Truman didn't have an ounce of charisma. Truman was as bland as a dead mackerel. This was about President Truman. Then he goes on to say what an extraordinary president he was. And his reasoning is he had integrity. If he said yes, people knew it was yes. If he said no, people said it was no. And people worshipped him. So in other words, you could be an extraordinary leader without charisma. He was a master in synthesis, not necessarily analysis. Analysis is easy for most of us because that's how we are trained. Synthesis requires a deep understanding on how to see connections that others don't. And look beyond the corporate world for ideas. Can entrepreneurship be democratized? I think Peter's question was more profound. It is not whether it can be taught. Can everybody be an entrepreneur? Can our entire society behave as an entrepreneurial society? Can it become the norm that we create, we innovate continuously rather than an exception? How do we build a society where innovation is the norm, change is the norm, and it is welcomed, embraced, and understood?